Okay, perfect. I think we'll go ahead and start. I do know we have some people that are going to show up a little bit late, but like I said, this will be recorded. So if you need to step off for any reason, feel free to ask for this recording, and I think we will be posting it on our website again for those people who couldn't join us. But we'll go ahead and get started. This is roughly around 30 minutes. We'll give at least anywhere from 10 to 5 minutes at the end to answer any questions that you may have. We may talk pretty quickly because there's a lot of information we want to share with you all. So feel free to use the chat function. If you haven't used it, it's at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to put it in the chat, or we can wait until the end of the presentation and we can have an open forum for questions. I'll start off by introducing myself. Hello, I am Jessica Cornell. I am the Manager of Recruitment and Administration here at SCLN. I oversee the recruitment process for all three of our leadership development programs, everything from when a candidate is interested in our programming, overseeing the application process, interview process, facilitating conversations for the selection process. And essentially my job is done once a candidate turns into a fellow, and that's when I hand the baton off to our programming staff. Today, I do have my colleague Colleen with us on the call, but the two other colleagues who are not on the call, but I briefly will show their name, is Erin Tenenbaum, who's our Senior Managing Director, and Lindsay Johnston, who is our Manager of Programs and Marketing. So in total, we are 4. We're a pretty small staff here at SCLN, but we do a lot of work. And then Colleen, if you want to introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Colleen Menard, Director of Programs and Evaluation for SCLN. So as Jessica mentioned, once you go through the recruitment process and you're accepted as a fellow, you then kind of get handed off to the program team, which I lead. So I am your main facilitator for all of the seminars. Also your main contact for any questions you have about programming once you're a fellow. And then I also run all evaluation for all of our programs as well as the organization as a whole.
Perfect. Thank you, Colleen. Well, let's move on here. And just briefly, so for those people who are brand new to kind of our circle for SCLN, short for Southern California Leadership Network, we have been around since 1987. Briefly, our mission is to advance the region and state by inspiring, preparing, and connecting leaders to drive change through all 3 of our programs. Our goal is really to prepare diverse professionals with the knowledge, leadership skills, and network to become collaborative, passionate leaders in their profession and civic careers. And we are a 501c3 organization, so we are open for donations and sponsorship opportunities year-round. And then I know I keep bringing it up, but we do have 3 leadership programs. And I know this info call is for Leadership L.A., but briefly, we have 2 other programs apart from Leadership L.A., Leadership Southern California, which is our regional program. Sometimes you get questions like, what is the difference between Leadership L.A. versus Leadership Southern California? Leadership L.A. is more centered around L.A. County and kind of L.A. City, versus Leadership Southern California, which is our regional program, which we also do talk about LA County, but also Orange County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, and Ventura County. So much more geographic land that we cover through that program. It is more cross collaboration between geographic locations. So that is kind of like the main difference between both Leadership LA and Leadership Southern California. And all 3 programs start at different times of the year. So Leadership LA usually starts in March. Leadership Southern California usually starts in June. And then, of course, our Reardon Leadership Institute usually starts in September. And our RLI program is for people interested in nonprofit board service and training. So if you've ever thought about sitting on a nonprofit board and would like to have more in-depth training about board governance, how to read financial statement in the perspective of a board member, for diversity, anything that kind of surrounds kind of that role, we have this 8-month program, and our fellows also partner up with a local nonprofit to work on a project. So they get the classroom learning and also the experience working with an organization. And then we do have a variety of ways that we engage our alumni for all 3 of our programs after each program is over, which includes being speakers, helping us with interviews in our process, hosting us at their place of work for excursions, or hosting us at different venues, networking opportunities, and of course, continued education opportunities throughout the year. So I'll hand it over to my colleague, Colleen.
Good afternoon again, everyone. So this is just our schedule of seminars. So throughout the program, we do meet once or twice a month based on, what we're doing. And so if we're meeting twice a month, it's usually because we have a shorter Wednesday leadership workshop that we're going to do. But overall, our program is split into two phases. The first phase of our program is building relationships and understanding context. So essentially what that is getting to know and building relationships with your fellows and understanding the basics of mindfulness and emotional intelligence, how you can bring that back to your own teams, how you can use that in your daily life at work and outside of work. And we go over the basics of those in orientation. We also have, on our second day of orientation, go over the basics of design thinking. So the first half is like introduction to a lot of the tools that we'll be using throughout the program. And we really do go into the science and neuroscience behind emotional intelligence and mindfulness, as well as practice it every time that we meet. So we do have a 2-day orientation. Both days are mandatory. Our first one on March 17th is virtual. So if you'll notice here, our virtual days are a lot shorter, a couple of hours shorter than our normal in-person days, about like 2 hours. Just because we know that attention span on virtual sessions and nobody wants to sit in front of a screen all day. So we have shortened those time periods. But our second day, we will be in person. We do feel it's very important for you all to meet in person at the very beginning of this program because there is no substitute for being in person. And so our second day will be an all-day seminar in person. And then we have our first leadership workshop, which is on a Wednesday. We have 2 leadership workshops in total. They're all on Wednesdays from 4 to 6:30. And those are just continuing of our emotional intelligence and mindfulness, as well as our leadership development. So during day 1 of orientation, you will also learn about our process of our 360 assessment. So you'll learn the leadership competencies we focus on and start exploring your values and leadership principles. So we'll come back to that in our second leadership workshop, which is in June. And then between these 2 leadership workshops, we're continuing to explore and understanding context. So we will kind of get an overview of how LA County works and how this 88 cities work as well throughout Los Angeles County. We'll explore where are the power hubs, both at the community level, grassroots, and like we also say, like we like to say, grass tops. So, who holds actual power in LA County and how is it used, basically. So seminar 3 is building healthy communities. So one of our focuses or frames throughout the program is healthy communities. So we see focusing on that frame as a way to solve some of our complex enduring problems like homelessness, like unaffordable housing, access to healthcare, access to quality education. So we look at it through, if we're just building healthy communities, we are addressing those issues. So we'll explore that during our seminar 3. As well as start to look at history of LA County and how we've gotten to this point, in our history, and what were some of the national as well as local laws and policies that were put into place to form the structures that now exist today. So that's the first part of our program. Our second part is really focusing in on specific topics of some of those complex enduring problems. We will have a design thinking workshop, which will be half of that day actually, and really going through the process of design thinking and how it's an inclusive tool that you can use to collaborate with others and make sure that you're getting everybody's opinion and perspective at the table. So we'll go through that. Then starting with our seminar 5 through 8, that's when we're focusing in on specific topics. So we go through, and we're in person for all of these days. We go over sustainability, and then just to kind of start us off, and then you'll see that some of our days topics are mixed together. We do that because we really look at solving some of these problems. You can't look at them in silos. You have to look at these issues and how they're interconnected to other issues. So on our Transportation, Goods Movement, and Economic Development Day, we'll explore the intersection of all those challenges, organizations that are actually taking kind of holistic approach to we don't say solve problems, we say tame these problems. And so we'll be doing the same thing during Education Community Safety Day, as well as our Creative and Place-Based Solution Day. So I just want to say we are planning these all in person, but as we'll be telling you throughout the process, it is all dependent on state and local health orders. But we hope we've already kind of gone back into person for some of our other programs, and we're hoping that by March of next year, we can stick to this schedule. So there's only a few virtual, but mostly in-person sessions. So what do our seminars cover? I kind of briefly said this. We cover the leadership context. So, what's the context that you live and lead in? And then an overview of the county government systems and structures and the historical context, as well as the framing. Once again, we cover how to build healthy communities. What does it mean to have a healthy community? So we do explore the social determinants of health, which essentially are almost all the topics that we cover in our programming, right? Access to housing, as I mentioned, access to transportation, access to healthcare. It's also about getting to know yourself, right? Discovering your leadership values and your strengths and blind spots with the 360 assessment. And we will also develop a personal mission statement. Basically, that is going to be your North Star. Where do you want to be? How do you want to use all the information that you're gathering from this program and this process and the connections you're making with other fellows, and basically take it out into the world, take it back into your workspaces, and how do you want to use it to make Los Angeles County a better place? It's about managing self and teams. So as we talked about, understanding practice of emotional intelligence, active listening, increasing your own resilience, and ability to respond to setbacks. So this year and last year, we've added a lot more of the mindfulness and emotional intelligence into our programs, even more so than before the pandemic, because actually it is very needed right now. And it's definitely one of the things that we've received a lot of feedback on that our fellows are glad is part of the program. You're going to engage stakeholders across silos. So analyzing what is working and applying it to your own context. So we'll also highlight collaborations and coalitions that have started to basically tackle some of these complex enduring problems. Talk a lot about innovative thinking and creative processes for that. And then, really hope to get diverse perspectives in front of you. So all the speakers that we have throughout the program, we like them to represent different sectors. So on a panel, you could see somebody from business, government, and the community together talking about an issue from a different perspective. And then also about community empowerment. We really also like to highlight people with lived experience. And so that's people who are experiencing these complex problems on a day-to-day basis, right? And looking to them as people with the solutions and answers to their own issues. And then, leading change. We'll have you develop a plan for your leadership development through the 360 assessment, but then we're also going to have you set some intention and goals for the end of the program that we will come back to. And you'll have a buddy who will help you keep on top of those throughout the year after you graduate. So just because you graduate from the program doesn't mean you're done with us. We do have a year-out survey that we come back to. We want to see what you've done and what you've accomplished since you've graduated. And what you will experience in LLA. So guidance and learning from leadership experts. Our leadership team encompasses 3 people. So we here at SELN are facilitators of your experience, but we do have leadership experts who will come in to facilitate the design thinking workshop, the 360 assessment, as well as the emotional intelligence and mindfulness. Access to local organizations, experts, and peer leaders driving change. So you'll have As I mentioned, we will be going out on excursions and bringing speakers into our classroom. We will always provide contact information for them. We always ask the question, how can our fellows get involved in your organizations? How can they take the conversation forward, since we only do have a brief day together each month? We do have virtual platforms and hands-on learning experiences planned for you. We've learned a lot about virtual learning in the past couple of years, through the pandemic, and we'll be using and continue to use some of those tools during our virtual seminars. Personalized 360 assessment. We access the civic engagement opportunities and resources for continued learning. So as I mentioned, it's just a short period of time we have with you each month. We try to give you additional reading before the programs and after the program that is sometimes optional and that you can keep for forever if you need to come back to it, or if you want to read it on your own time. We also ask, as I said, we ask our organizations, how can our fellows get involved? And usually that's in a civic engagement capacity. And then intentional interactions with leaders outside your professional silos. So you all come and we try to make our program as diverse as possible. We want people who are maybe program managers at the nonprofit level in here with founders of tech companies or business and government. The reason we do that is because we think that's where innovative and creative solutions come from. So when we will be putting you into teams, we try to make the teams as diverse as possible, because when we put you through specific activities, we want people to come from different silos and sectors to come together to actually think of some of these solutions to these complex problems. So then I'll hand it back to Jessica.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Colleen. And just kind of some of the logistical questions in the sense that we get is tuition and kind of the time commitment. And I know Colleen kind of briefly talked about it, but just to kind of go down the list here, the tuition total for Leadership L.A. is $3,950. It includes all the in-class experiential learning, which includes the virtual portion and also the in-person. When we are in person, we do cover ground transportation and food, which is breakfast and lunch. The only thing that we don't cover is, of course, the transportation from your house to the venue that would be that for that day. If you are an alumni of our other two programs, or if your company is an LA Area Chamber of Commerce member, you do receive a 10% discount. And if you don't know if your company is a chamber member, feel free to reach out to me and I could look it up and let you that information. There you go. Give you that information. We do understand that our tuition costs may be prohibitive for a lot of people looking for professional development, looking towards us. So we do offer tuition assistance in the form of either a 3-month payment plan or scholarships, or a combination of both. You can indicate your need if you are looking for payment plan option or scholarship in the application itself. It is generally the last 2 questions in the application, so there's no additional information they need to provide. It's all within your Leadership L.A. application. And then kind of going into the time commitment piece, as Colleen shared, all of our full day seminars are typically 1 Friday per month for 8 months, apart from orientation. That's kind of our 2-day orientation. And we do have 2 afternoon leadership workshop seminars, which again are virtual and in the afternoon. We do have a time commitment policy here at SCLN for all 3 of our programs. We really do hope that you attend all of our seminars, but we do understand, as 2020 showed us and 2021 has showed us, you just never know what's around the corner. So you are able to miss up to 2 seminars apart from orientation and still graduate with your class. So if things happen, or if it's a pre-planned event and you can't make it, just letting us know ahead of time if it's something again pre-planned, and hopefully that you're okay. We don't record our in-person seminars. It's a lot of logistical moving that we can't do, but if it is virtual, we do record, and we do provide that for people who maybe had to jump off early for some reason or weren't there for the day. And as Colleen shared, we do break the class down into smaller groups. We do provide you pre-reading, a little bit of homework, and we just say, give yourself 5 hours per month. So it doesn't have to be in 1 week, to look at the pre-reading, to reach out to your group. If you want to have reach out to one of the speakers and have a virtual coffee interaction with them, that may include those 5 hours, but there is some time commitment outside of the seminars themselves. And kind of the person that, the question that always lingers around, kind of who is the ideal candidate? And as Colleen shared, we are looking for diverse candidates from different backgrounds, sectors, industries. People ask, is there an age, requirement that is needed? No, we really want the class to be as interactive as possible with different perspectives, and that includes everyone. So people with much earlier in their career, but are very engaged in their community, or people that are maybe nearing towards our end of their career and really want to give back to the community after the fact. We cater to everyone. And I know that's sometimes really hard, but I think that's what makes the beauty of our program is you just never know who's going to be in the class that could lead you to a new opportunity, whether that be professional or even personal sometimes. And we really hope that each fellow is open to building relationships across the board. So as I shared, you may be in a silo within one area of the business, and you really don't get to interact with lawyers or people in tech or people in education. And it really helps maybe you and your professional development along with your 360 and your classmates to build a trajectory for you to improve yourself. The class itself, we're going to have around 40 fellows. So it is still a pretty large class, but given with COVID restrictions, kind of 40 was our ideal cap for the class. And we really do hope that our ideal candidate is interested, that wants to learn more, wants to be engaged, ask questions. And then at the end of the day, if you really can't dedicate the time and energy to this, you're not going to get the most out of this program. So someone that will be attending the seminars, who's actively engaged with the rest of the fellows, kind of those are the people that we want in the program. And then once after you graduate from Leadership L.A., we have great opportunities as alumni. I will say we are, again, a 4-person team, and with the pandemic, it's been really hard to gather our fellows, but we do have other ways that we reach out to them. So we have different events. This past 2 years, we have a lot of virtual events. We had our Vision Awards actually just this past, like around 2 weeks ago. So that's our biggest gathering of our alumni. We do have a newsletter, which is literally called Just for Alumni, where we highlight alumni, provide opportunities for them, anything that we want to share with our alumni group for all 3 programs. It's included that newsletter. And we sometimes reach out to you just to kind of hear what you're doing, what your company's up to. So it's always a continuous engagement from us as staff to our fellows and our alumni. And just briefly, the application process, some of you may have questions. We do have an early application deadline, and we also have a final application deadline. We always encourage people to submit their application early because by the end of this year, half the class has been selected. So in theory, it gets more competitive the more you wait because there's less seats available for the class. So once you submit your application, which I say, please submit it in one sitting. If you walk away from it and decide to complete it later, your information will get deleted and you would have to re-enter it. So submit it in one sitting. Once you submit it, I will be reaching out to you to schedule a virtual interview via Zoom. It's really a 30-minute conversation. We just really want to get to know you a little bit better. We do have a pre-planned questions to ask you, but apart from that, feel free to ask any questions just to make sure that this program is really the best fit for you. Because like I said, we do have 2 other programs. And then shortly after that, we provide your response, whether you've been accepted or waitlisted for the program. And I will say there is always a waitlist for our early application deadline and our final application deadline. If you find yourself November 19th not submitting your application, it is not the end of the world. We do have a final application deadline, which is all the way in January. So you still have time to submit over the holidays if you choose to. But again, please submit it as soon as possible just to get you through our pipeline. And we would love to see you join us eventually as a fellow. So let's see. We want to end it there and give ourselves a couple of minutes here to open up the forum for any questions that you may have. Our manager of marketing would not be happy if I didn't say, please check us out on social media. We have Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. I'm going to stop sharing my screen just so everyone can either see me and Colleen, but we want to open up to questions. Let's see. Any questions so far? Either you can unmute yourself or put it in the chat. Oh, I do see some questions here that were sent to me. Are we meeting in person, LA Chamber near downtown? So as Colleen shared, we will be meeting in person. Our venues are all over LA County. So sometimes we may be in Montebello, maybe we'll be in downtown LA, maybe we'll be in Pacoima. So it really depends also the topic of the day. So if it's sustainability, we really want to be in a venue that is related to sustainability. So it can kind of connect the full day. And sometimes the venue itself is also the excursion. So it ties in for the full day. So we're trying to be very intentional about where we're at, and also realizing not all people maybe have cars. So are we close to public transportation? So kind of those things are out there. So we may not always be in the downtown area. Are there any discounts for nonprofits? I also got that in a direct message. Depending, I would say yes and no, because if you are a LA Chamber of Commerce member, which we do have a lot of nonprofits that are, you do get that 10% discount. You could always include that in, again, your, if you're looking for a form of, what's the word, Colleen?
Tuition assistance?
Yes, tuition assistance. Feel free to include that, because we do have people that work at small nonprofits and their professional development budget is not that big. So feel free to include that. And we as an organization discuss, because we really want your voice to be in the room. Because if it's all just, business leaders in the private sector, the conversation can only go so far. Let's see. Any other questions? Mary, can you share the application deadline for both LA City and other county programs? So that's our Leadership Southern California program. The application does not launch until December. So once that's available, it will definitely go on our website. We are hoping to launch it the second week of December. Let's see. What is the average age of the fellows? So as I shared, there's, we're all over the spectrum. I think this last Leadership L.A. class, we have someone, I think that was 24 and they were the youngest. And we had someone up to, they were already retiring. So we kind of have a full range, but I will say most people on a little bit on average are, middle to late in their career. Colleen, if you want to, because I know you work on their demographics more.
Yeah. So it's usually kind of a bell curve, right?
Yeah.
We have a few amount of people who are in that earlier stage, and then a few who are, like Jessica said, later. So we're talking like 55 plus, but the majority fit within the 25 to 55 range, I will say. In both those categories are usually fairly equal. I think we go 25 to 35, and 45 to 55. So that's where the majority come from, but we do, as she said, span the gamut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other questions? These are all really good questions, by the way. And let me put it in the chat here. Our Leadership L.A. application. So I know we're rounding up at 1:30 already, but we really hope to see your application come in. As a reminder, November 19th is the early application deadline, but the application will remain open even after that. So feel free to submit when possible, and we really hope to see you guys soon. And if you have any further questions or think of something later on, feel free to reach out to me or Colleen. We're available via email or a short phone call away. But really, thank you so much for taking the time out to learn more about us and Leadership L.A. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. So thank you, everyone.